aim of this video series is to highlight the most popular decks in each patch so you can utilise them yourself or know how to counter the decks that you're most likely to meet. With the release of the Shurima expansion, it's expected that a lot of people would switch from older decks to new decks, and actually this is probably shown in the fact that 2 of the 3 most popular decks on this video are actually new decks that we've never seen before, and obviously feature Shurima. So surprisingly they're also quite competitive, and this video is going to basically also outline how to counter them. So without further ado, let's dive in. This is Most Popular Decks Patch 2.3. This video has been done in collaboration with BomberTV. Please remember to like and subscribe and turn on the bell notifications too. So let's dive in. This is Twisted Fate Fizz Elusive and features cards primarily from Piltover and Zorn, even though the 2 main champions are from Bilgewater. It's actually quite an expensive deck with 7 epic cards in total on top of the 6 champions. It's very spell heavy with 25 in total and only 9 follower cards. The deck has a very strong ramp to mid game with lots of cards costing 0 to 4 mana. The 2 main ideas with this deck is level up Twisted Fate and kill with elusives. It's as simple as that. When Twisted Fate is leveled up, each round the first 3 cards you play, anytime I hit a card, it activates a Destiny card, which I'll go into shortly about what these can do. To accomplish the first goal of leveling up Twisted Fate, you have plenty of drawing tools such as Rummage and Pick a Card. Rummage discards 2 to draw 2, and Pick a Card places a card from your hand into your deck to draw 3 cards in the next round, which are all going to have fleeting. All this drawing will level up Twisted Fate quick. After Twisted Fate levels up, the amount of value he generates is absolutely insane, even if he survives just a single round. The red card from Twisted Fate will crush aggro strategies with the wide damage it does to all your opponent's units, which are typically going to have little health if they're aggressive. The yellow card can set back the tempo of your opponent on the turn they're going for their finishes. Imagine how triggering it's going to be when you deal 2 damage and stun their boss card just as they're about to win. Blue card can generate more value and it's useful in a control matchup. Now imagine casting all 3 of them in the same round, all 3 of Twisted Fate's cards, which can easily be done with the amount of low cost burst spells that this deck runs. To finish and kill, we do this with elusives and we mainly have Fizz and the hidden gem Wiggly Burblefish. If you start off with a Fizz then draw on turn 2 into Suit Up, this can be devastating. Suit Up costs 2 less when drawn and sets a card's stats to 4/4. It will also activate Fizz's effect so he's untargetable and elusive. The 4/4 stat line is basically unremovable in the early games and can only be answered with the single target removals like Vengeance or multiple removals, giving you an advantage on the value and baiting out removals for safer Twisted Fate later on so he can obviously be generating the value of his cards. Wiggly Burblefish is also the best target for Imperative Improvement to push for more elusive damage while also protecting the generated copies from pings. This spell simply creates a copy of Wiggly Burblefish with the additional 1/1 stats. Twisted Fate Fizz was the best deck in the past meta and is now falling through in terms of viability, but still holds up the ground, so we'll see if she continues to decline or will rise back to the top. To counter Twisted Fate Fizz Elusive, you play a bunch of AoEs like Avalanche or Ice Shard, and you should have a pretty easy time. The key cards in this deck actually have very low health, so you can quickly take them out with spells like this to stop your opponent in their tracks. This is Kindred Nasus and features cards from Shurima and Shadow Isles. It's a control deck, and as you can see it has a large amount of cards costing 5 or more mana, which is very typical for control decks. It's actually quite an expensive deck as well, with 6 epic cards in total. The idea behind this deck is to control the board whilst activating Slay effects to take advantage of Kindred and to buff Nasus, and later on win with a big buffed up Nasus either by getting through or casting Atrocity on him. Nasus gains 1/1 for each unit you've slain this game and works well with Kindred, who obviously marks the weakest enemy each time you slay a unit for the first time in the round and kills a unit with his mark at round end. The Undying is a very neat card here, constantly growing and putting pressure on your opponent, forcing him to let you value trade or take damage, or letting him grow bigger and bigger, whilst also being the perfect target for sacrificial cards like Blighted Caretaker. This is obviously a very useful card here as well, and triggering up to 3 slays potentially in one turn thanks to the on-play kill and the trades from the saplings. You also have a lot of draw tools like Glimpse Beyond and Spirit Leech, both very useful for getting your important champion cards. Glimpse Beyond kills an ally to draw 2 cards, and Spirit Leech is a new card that kills an ally also to draw 2 cards. Overall, this is a very control-oriented deck and can be quite tricky to master, but nevertheless it's a very solid one overall. You'll have a lot of fun if you can get a level 2 Nasus and level 2 Kindred in this game. To counter Kindred Nasus is actually quite tricky, and in general you want to run hard removal cards like Vengeance or the Runation, or maybe even silence cards like Hush. So if you want to be a little bit more specific, Frostbite is also quite good, as it's basically going to be a way of countering a Nasus that's obviously going to be hitting for big. Frostbite that Nasus and he's not going to be able to damage you. This is Azir, Hecarim, Ephemerals, and it features cards primarily from Shadow Isles, with some cards also from Shurima. It's a standard aggro mana costed deck with 20 cards costing 3 or less mana. It's actually a little bit expensive with 5 epic cards in total. The core idea behind this deck is to attack with lots of ephemeral cards and then hit your opponent with a leveled up Hecarim on turn 6, often resulting in you winning the game. This deck has so many ways of generating ephemeral cards, so you're not going to struggle to get a lot of them on the field. And a leveled up Hecarim gains the effect of granting all ephemeral cards 3 extra damage when he levels up when they attack, so you're going to have a big combo to finish. To achieve this, one of our key cards is Shark Chariot, constantly being resummoned attacking, and thus advancing the level of Hecarim even further. Hecarim obviously levels up when you attack with 7 ephemeral cards, which is going to be super easy in this deck. Another one of your key cards is Azir, always guaranteeing an ephemeral attacking champion in the form of Sand Soldiers. This works well with Shark Chariot, as he obviously arrives when you have an ephemeral card attacking, so you're going to be having a Sand Soldier and Shark Chariot most turns in an ideal world. Another very important card is Soul Shepherd. Not only does it give you more attack, putting more pressure on your opponent, but actually the most important thing is the health buff, meaning that your opponent can't simply just ping a small AoE card to counter all your weak ephemeral cards, and that's quite a big deal in this deck. Later on, finish the game with Hecarim. If your opponent is too resilient, you also have the Harrowing to put an end to the game. The Harrowing revives the strongest 6 allies that died this game and grants them ephemeral, meaning they will benefit from your ephemeral buffs cards in this deck too. So overall this is a very aggressive deck, almost totally kind of ignoring any form of defense, which obviously constantly you're going to be racing against your opponent to finish the game as quickly as possible. To counter Azir Ephemerals, you just play a bunch of AoEs like Avalanche or Ice Shard, and you should have a pretty easy time, and this is why decks play Soul Shepherd to protect the cards which would otherwise die really easily. So ephemeral cards typically have super low health, and cards like this just wipe them out. And there we go guys, I hope you found this useful. The most popular decks in the Shurima expansion are constantly changing as people discover new ones, but the first week or so, these look like the decks that are being used the most so far. So enjoy using these or knowing how to counter them. What do you think is the best new deck in Shurima expansion so far? I would love to hear in the comments. Up next is Top 10 Decks Patch 2.4. As the meta continues to settle, we take a look at the top 10 win rates in this patch. I expect this list to be very different to the list on patch 2.3, as loads of new decks obviously constantly pop up, evolve and are discovered. The data presented here is analysed by BomberTV using MOBA analytics. He's a Masters tier player with a background in game theory and game design. He took the most winning archetypes into Master tier, excluding ones with small play rates, analysed their key properties on why they are so strong. Link to his channel is in a pinned comment and in the card above. I've recently set up an Instagram account, @LoreGuides, and I'll be doing a giveaway shortly. Please follow this account for see posts about new videos, and will be in a chance of winning this giveaway. Please remember to like and subscribe and turn on bell notifications too. See you next time guys.